The Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries presents Friday Night Bible Study. Our Friday night Bible studies are held in the United Kingdom, Atlanta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, and in the state of New Jersey. Welcome to Friday Night Bible Study.
Peace, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Rise Takeover. My name is Ashley Reno of Missouri, and I would like to introduce our panel. Thank you for joining us, especially those who are online. Welcome, Sarah. How are you today?
I'm doing great and wonderful. Happy to be here with all of you guys.
All right. How about Naomi? How are you today?
I'm amazing. So excited to have this discussion.
Yes. How about Miriam? How are you today?
I am feeling good, feeling great. As everyone said, very excited to get into today's topic. I think it's going to be really good.
Yes, I think it's going to be really good as well. And lastly, Ezra, how are you today?
I'm feeling good, feeling great. I'm getting ready to get into the lesson.
All right. So this topic today is in need of an Israelite. We're uniting perspectives. So as you can see, it's mostly women on here, but we do have a surprise man. So we're going to be hearing his perspective on what we're going to be talking about today. So let's get into it.
I just want to say it's so great. I know last time both of we had a bunch of girls to talk about this topic, and it's so great to add a guy perspective. I know you're not representing all guys ever, but you're kind of invited into our little conversation to show your perspective. So I'm excited to see what conversations we have.
Me too. Me too. Me as well. Yeah, I do not represent all men, but I will try my best to just give my honest opinion
Mhm.
All
as,
right.
as an Israelite man.
Mm-hmm.
You guys ready to get into this?
Yeah.
Yes, super
Yeah.
excited. Yes.
All right. So here is part 3 of In Need of an Israelite. And we have the previous lessons in need of an Israelite woman, and the second one in need of an Israelite man. So let's hop right into it. So here's a bit of a recap. This is from the men's episode, the first episode. This is the first um, screen grab of it, and this screenshot is just to show that they are thinking about Israelite women. Now, I want to hear everybody's perspective on what they thought of hearing it. And if you didn't watch the episode, they use adjectives such as passionate women, strong women, very good adjectives. And I wanted to hear you guys' perspective on what you guys thought. Anybody would like to start?
I
Yeah, I think it was really, really nice. Sorry, Naomi. I think it was really, really nice and like satisfying to hear from young men in this nation who like think about this, you know? I think especially as females, um we talk in our circles, and I think it always seem like it's only us thinking about this and overthinking it and thinking about dating and stuff like that. But it's nice to hear that it's happening on the other side, and they also have the values that we are, trying to look for and trying to grow and things like that. So it made me really hopeful for us as a nation that we're like starting to have these conversations, and that's why, I think it's just interesting to hear their opinions on these things.
Absolutely. I think as an Israelite woman, it's great to hear the perspective of an Israelite man. I think we don't often enough put each other in each other's shoes. You get what I'm saying? Like if we don't like, often do that. And so to hear what the guys or the men think, or the young men think about their roles and how they add to the Israelite marital unit was so refreshing to hear. It's great that a lot of what they expect and a lot of what women, us Israelite women, are sharpening our tools on and doing, that those expectations are relatively met, or that they're both there. I think we're on the same page as far as we both want to value ourselves and each other and make sure that the God of Israel is a part of that relationship. But also on an individual level, I think we kind of both did this in our individual lessons. We also focused on what it means as us as people. So the Israelite men talked about themselves, and us as women talked about ourselves, because I think in order to talk about us as coming together, you have to talk about yourselves as individuals. And so I think just learning about their perspective was very interesting.
All right. And Miriam, did you have any thoughts?
No, I definitely agree with what, Sarah and Naomi were saying. I think that it was really good to hear what the guys were thinking because, like Sarah said, a lot of the time you may not even think that they're having these conversations with each other, and you may think, like, as a woman, sometimes I think, like, does he even think about me? Like, does he even think about our relationship or what it does for him, what it does for like us as individuals together? But it's nice to know that guys do have these conversations, and then it's not just about the stereotypical physical woman, like what you want in a woman physically, but what they want in a woman um, emotionally, what her characteristics are like, instead of just that stereotypical guys always talk about women's bodies and they don't want a skinny girl and they want a thick girl, like, things like that. So it was nice to see and hear that the conversations go deeper than that.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for you guys' input. Let's get to the next slide, please. All right, so this is the second screenshot from the men's episode. So when they brought this up, this really attacked me in my heart, just to say. It really put into perspective that someone would harm their child while they're in the womb, and this caused from a absent father or a not present father. And so this really got me thinking of what women when sorry I need to slow down a little bit, what men and women are doing out there to these children. And I just wanted to hear you guys' perspective on what you guys thought when you saw this in the previous episode.
Yeah, I think it's just telling to see that we live in a society without bounds. I know this may not be everyone's story, but this is the extreme case of what happens when there's no like strong foundation when it comes to how to raise someone up, or like I think even like just the knowledge of like how spiritually important it is for a mom and the baby during that time, that knowledge is not known, it's not taught. We it's absent from our greater communities outside of Israel. And so it just shows that there's a lacking of education, and just a like in consideration for a child. I think that is just that's this horrible. That slide also shocked me because I did not know about that, and just even seeing the pictures and everything, I think it's just really shocking. But not surprising given the state of society right now.
Yes, exactly. Any other thoughts?
I also know, just being a part of the panel, that it was shocking to see that, and I think that just like the point that was stressed was the fact that it does matter, kind of how you um, how you how you deal with and understand the dynamic between man and woman. Kind of similar to what you guys were talking about, as far as even what you admired about our conversation that day. I think those conversations, I think Miriam's right. It should be more on the forefront of our minds and of our frontal lobes, because I think that if you only depend on the world, that's kind of like the image that's out there as far as like Black family, like there's more pictures of this than there could be of just a good Black family. and we're supposed to be more than just Black, we're Israelites. So I think to even set the standard, so I think that there should be a shift in conversations, and that we shouldn't really be partaking in a lot of the same mindsets that the world has for us, but we need to have our own mindset and set our own standards.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. I think whatever was happening in that situation was absolutely appalling. But I think we need to hold ourselves to a standard in which we have ethics and morals and health guidelines for our children, especially in the womb, and protecting them spiritually and physically. But I think we are a few steps above that, because we do focus on the spirituality and connecting to the one and true living God. And so I think we have just standards in which like totally are above the today's standards for that they have for us, and that sometimes we have for ourselves. And so I think that we should continue to think about not only how that image kind of makes Jacob and Jacobites look, but that isn't, just because that isn't happening doesn't mean you're probably doing okay, but wouldn't you want to do amazing and give your child the best possible outcome possible? And so it's not just the physical health, but it's the mental, emotional, and spiritual as well.
I think that is a really great point, Nay. I think that something that we need to think about as young people, and I hope that young people are tuning into this episode because it is so important and this discussion needs to be discussed. But
Yeah, I'm sorry, if you do have a young person in your life and they're not watching, just send this to them.
really quick.
Yeah.
In the chat, just send them the link. Be like, if you want to listen to this in the background, go ahead and do it. But I think that two things that picture makes me think about is, first of all, be careful who you decide to have children with, start a family with, because things like this it's extreme, yeah, but it happens. So, be careful who you have children with, but also in order to be in a successful relationship, regardless of who you are, you need to look within yourself and be like, am I ready to be in this relationship? Is this something that will serve me positively? Is it something that will serve my partner positively? Is it something that'll serve our future children positively? Because you never want to, I mean, like, you never really know. Sometimes, like, things happen, right? But you want to make sure that you're giving that child and that relationship the best treatment possible. And in order to do that, you need to be in a good standing with yourself to take that step, because it's a big step. Like, being in a relationship is not, oh, I'm just going to be in a relationship because I want to be in a relationship. Like, it takes work and it takes dedication. So you need to make sure that you're ready to even fulfill those things for your partner, your future family, and also ultimately for yourself. And then obviously, as we always talk about, making sure that spirituality and your spirituality is key in your relationship. And I think that the God of Israel is obviously so wise because he put it in the scripture for us to abstain from certain things when we are pregnant, because he knows that like those things don't have a good impact on your womb. So you need to keep it as clean, as spiritually clean, physically clean, emotionally clean as possible. So when that baby is growing in the womb and comes out, they're happy and healthy because they were given that environment. So, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for the great points. Let's from the audience, let's get some fires, sevens in the chat, whatever, because that was really great. And I'm just surprised because like even as a young person, it's kind of normalized in the outside world, And just knowing that other people are thinking just like me, like, this is a little crazy. I don't think we should be doing this. So that was really, really great. Drop some fire sevens in the chat. Let's go on to the next slide. All right. So this is from the women's episode of In Need of an Israelite Man. And this slide is just to show that of the roles that are to be expected in a husband and wife relationship. So I just want to get you guys' thoughts on what you guys saw or when you guys spoke about in this episode.
Being part of this episode, I think that this part was just so, I don't know, like mind boggling, but also eye opening, because it just showed how the God of Israel does things based on what he thinks. And it's not like, so a prudent wife is from the Lord. That's saying that, a great wife, a wife that, will take care of you, look out for you, for the home, all those things is a gift from the God of Israel. And it's not necessarily like one size fits all. It definitely has to do with the man and what he needs and what, his helpmate can do for him. And I think that, you can get riches and you can get inheritance and all those things. And those things are great. But what comes from the God of Israel is a good, healthy relationship and a good wife and someone that will take care of you, will be with you, to support you in all ways. And that hope that you will do the same for her. Because it's not just, I'm going to give you this amazing wife and you just do whatever with her, but because this is a gift from me to you, you need to treat her with the same love, respect, and care that she shows you.
Right. The God of Israel made it clear that women are the prize. I think in this society, when gender roles are kind of mixed up, men start to think that they're the prize. And while they have value and they are important, we're the prize. I think there's a special relationship between men and women, and they have different roles. And so I think to get back to what God of Israel intended us to be is how a relationship should run. And so I think, yeah, just a great reminder of that modern quote that we are the prize.
I loved I believe when we talked about this and I really want to get Edge's perspective on what he thought when he was watching this too. But I remember, just for recap's sake, talking about this and talking about how we are blessings, not like from the God of Israel, for the men and our partners in our life. And so I think even prudent, the word itself, and I just looked it up so I know for sure that it means to think about the future, like it's wise and knowledgeable. And so it's not just a wife, or it's not just someone that she's wise, like she's knowledgeable and she's smart and she knows the best for your family, and she's going to lead in her own way. And so there is that thought that we're blessings to take care of your wives, and that women, the wives are prizes. Although I think when you're talking about yourself, I think you yourself should always be the prize. I think that first and foremost. But I think when we're talking about in a relationship, I think that to think of ourselves as blessings, and I think highlighting to our men to treat their wives and to know that they're prudent and wise and knowledgeable going into that relationship, and treat them as such as well.
Yeah.
I think even just to add to everybody's points, I think everybody's points was really good and valid, because I think Miriam said, as far as, it doesn't really matter like the things that you have, right? As a man, like we are designed to go and get and conquer, as they say, or as we do. But part of it is, there's no love without the wife, so no matter what you get or achieve, there'll be a hole until the God of Israel decides to provide you with a way to fill that hole and a way to fill your home with love and good spirit. And so without the wife or without the mother, that's unachievable. And so you're kind of just living around getting things, but things cannot bring you any peace, not like a prudent woman can.
It's very interesting.
I think that the way that it's worded, that it says a prudent wife is from the Lord, I think that's a perfect way to say it, because I think when that person is that person, then I think that like this has to be God, because her embodiment and her character and her personality and the way that she cares and feels can only be a gift.
Absolutely. It's so great to hear you say that as an Israelite man. That just speaks to people that have taught you and how you were raised. And I think, and, the facets of this Israelite nation and how we are, raising up our men. And so it's great to hear your perspective on that too.
Yeah, I think that was a really, really good point, Ezra. I think we should get some sub-ins and some flyers in the chat and all the good stuff going on. And I'd love to hear the chat's thoughts as well on that scripture, because I think that everyone's opinion, both young and mature, is definitely welcome here. But this discussion is making me think about how literally the first gift that God gave to man was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wouldn't do that just because, he needs some love, and like, he saw that we should not be alone. There is no reason for us to be without a partner, without a helpmeet. So the God of Israel saw that from the beginning and said, a wife will be a gift to you. A woman will be a gift to you. And that'll be someone that, that he chooses for us. And like Ezra said, if you can recognize that love can only come from one other place, which is the God of Israel, then who are you to treat it any kind of way or to even turn it away? Like, once you get that opportunity, you got to hold on to it, because who's to say that it's ever going to happen again? The God of Israel doesn't give the same gift 10 million times. So if he gets it to you that one time, then you got to know how to nurture it and keep it and support it, and make it worthwhile, and show the God of Israel that you're thankful for what he provided to you in your wife and in your partner.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I really love the points. Thank you guys so much. Especially as a younger person, I've never been in a relationship ever, but just hearing about basically what is expected of me, but also that I'm also valued in the relationship, like not just as an inferior version of a man, but basically as a prize to him. And that's really awesome to hear, especially someone who was younger. Let's get the next slide and the last recap slide from the women's. All right, so this one is I want to hear everybody's opinion about this. This conversation could go any type of way. There's so many perspectives, and I want to hear them all. And also because I also really loved what you guys were talking about. So if you guys want to expand upon it, you guys can. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts.
I believe in this part of our lesson, with the women's version, we were talking, I think we had just gotten finished talking about some of the laws and traditions that are in the Bible. I think one of them even was when a man first marries his wife, that they stay private alone for like a year before he's called to go to war or something like that. Does that sound familiar? And we had talked about different customs. And so I definitely think that they're relevant to today. And so the laws and traditions that they were trying to create, which I believe we said in the second episode of this series, but it's great to reiterate now is that they're trying to create a man that is ready for, valued, uh, to gain value from his wife, and ready for that family. A man who can be that protector, but also the person that his wife and family does need. And so I think we even highlighted that fact that they needed that alone time to kind of, especially the traditions are different. And we did point this out where there wasn't as much dating time. And so they would, of course, have needed that year to after marriage to get to know each other as a couple, and not necessarily as, because in biblical times, in the patriarchal society, the woman was coming from their man's house, I mean, from their father's house. And so her herself is getting to know herself as part of a unit, but also the men as well. And so I think it's very relevant to today, because while there's a much larger dating period, so you will get to know that person before you do become that one unit. I think it's still relevant because it still shows the value of learning about each other and valuing each other and making sure that you guys are good before you go out to face the world. Because I think that foundation that you grow there, is the foundation to build a family upon. And when you strengthen that and make sure that's secure, so is that family. And so I think there are differences in the way that we do date and marry from now to before, but they're definitely related and there's a lot to learn from.
Yeah, I think especially to even answer the second question, how relevant is this today? I think it is very relevant. I can officially say that we have lost the sauce. I think that a lot of society is okay objectifying women, and women are okay being objectified. And it's seen as normal. And people are like, well, why aren't you with the program? Because you seem traditional or like old fashioned if you don't want to put yourself in that position. And so I think that it's important that we see the differences between the outer society and us. And it's like it comes with an idea of like try try actually listening to the values that we're going to talk about today, applying it to your life, and see how you feel about yourself. I think if you go out into society and participate as the role in that women role that they want you to be, see how you feel yourself. See how you feel about yourself. I guarantee the way you feel about yourself, the confidence and strength you will have about yourself will grow when you have the firm roots and foundation in Israel rather than outside world, because they don't actually care about your well-being. They care about how it looks and pleasure and all these things where like that's not that doesn't create a satisfying life in the long run. I think we have to stop thinking about what it is to be happy today, but what it means to be happy like in our lifetime. Like what are our goals? Do we want to have kids? Do we want to get married? Okay, what can I do today to make that happen? Instead of playing this role you think people want or expect of you to play. I just, I mean, of course you care about what people think about you, but like they don't know themselves. They're also following someone else, So it's hard to really like find yourself in a world today, especially at the age we're all around, which is like 18 to 25. That's like the hardest part of life, man. And it's like if we don't have these conversations now, it's like our foundation and our identity of like how we view ourselves, it's gonna crumble. So I think it's the most relevant thing we could talk about in this day and age right now, right here. So yeah.
Snaps and claps and whatever for Sarah, because that was everything.
In the chat.
Yes. I think that you made such a good point, Sarah, in wanting each other to not find the answers outside, because as you said, the world is not for us. It's not geared towards us in any way. And that's why we need to have these discussions more in-house so that we can all relate to each other. Like, I feel like having this conversation with you here is much, maybe I don't know if I would say easier, but it makes me feel more seen than a conversation I would have with a friend outside of Israel who doesn't really understand where I'm coming from. Because at the end of the day, they're going to tell me, girl, just do what you want to do. Like, just be whoever you want to be. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you only get one life, just live it the way you want to. But in the same way, I'm like, okay, like that's great and all, but are you really hearing what I'm telling you? Like, it's hard. Like, it's hard doing this. Like, it's hard. And everything shoved down your throat and into your eye sockets is against what you know, and everything you've been taught. So I think that yes, this conversation is needed. And I think that it's so important for the younger generation to also be part of this conversation, like you, Ashley. So I'm so happy that you're able to be here and be part of this conversation so you can get that firsthand discussion experience, that we all need with each other, because we're all at different points in our lives and we could all give each other different nuggets from the things that we've gone through. Whether we are talking to the older, more mature generation, or the middle, um, young adult, getting into adulthood generation, and even the teens, and younger. Like, I think that these discussions are so important to have from um, a young age so that we know what's expected of us, and so that we normalize this. So when we go outside, we don't feel totally outcasted because we don't have anyone else to have these conversations with. When we keep these conversations going and going and going, then we're able to feel more normal in a crazy world and know that there's a baseline and it's here and it's not there. Because that's where we'll feel comfortable and that's where we'll feel safe as women and as men in this nation.
Absolutely. And I know you probably want to move on, Ashley, but there's such good points. I think that it's so important to have frank, open, honest conversations about men and women and how we interact with each other. Because I think we're at a point now where, again, we're 18 to 25, where we're thinking about our future and we're not thinking about, oh, what is tomorrow? Like, we're thinking about what the next 5, 10, 15 years looks like with us, our partners, our families. And so maybe we want our own little nation, our own little society. Like, we have to build those foundations now. And I just love that the Israelite nation, that our master teacher, Elder Shadrach, gives us this platform in order to talk about this in a frank, open way. And we're able to even interact on a virtual level, to be able to have this foundation so that seeds can be planted so that we can grow more discussions and ideas and implementations about ways that we can make sure that both our men and our women are valued, and that together we are the ideal Israelite unit.
Yeah, just to even add on to what everybody's saying, I think that, that's even what RISE is, right? Like quite literally what it stands for, restoring Israelite self-awareness to education. So that's quite literally what our journey is as young people becoming adults. And so, yeah, I think it is important that we have our younger youth hearing this, because as you get older, the dynamic of the household quite literally is Israel, right? Because Israel is family and it's always been associated with family. And Israel doesn't start without family, right? All of when we talk about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, right? Those are all stories about family. So I think that that's like the baseline necessity of something that we have to handle. So I think even as young people leading into the next generation, as what RISE is created for, so that we become the future leaders of this nation and of this world, is that we are able to look within ourselves, and that we also are able to influence others to move in the right ways.
Thank you so much, Ezra. Such great points. I want you guys to drop sevens. I want you to drop fires. Those were really good. I also really agree that this conversation is very important, especially for people my age. There's obviously going to be some outwardly pleasures and other things that shouldn't concern you, but it's honestly really tempting. And I'm glad we're having this honest conversation because people don't like to think about it, but it really is hard not to conform to our society. And I just really want to reiterate that this conversation is really, really important. And I'm glad to be having this conversation with you guys, those that have already that are have experienced it and can give your advice to young people like me. So let's move on. All right. So this is a first question that I have for everybody. And those that are in the audience, you guys can drop what you guys think in the comments below. But I want to hear from the panel, why is this conversation important?
Yeah, I think we definitely touched on a lot of those points during the previous little chat there, but I think it's also when it comes to kind of talking to young people, I think there are so many, like you said, temptations or distractions of the world that you don't realize you've gone down a certain path until you look back and it's like, okay, I'm not anywhere where I want to be. And so I feel like this is so important for us to talk about, for Rise to talk about, for us to talk to younger people about this so that they can be redirected to what matters to them, like what actually matters in the real world. I think people I think up until a certain age, your like brain is developing and forming. And so there's going to be choices you're going to make that um, may conflict with your path, and to show them that, hey, there's a path like back, and like there's options way more than what you have now to live your life. And I know we're talking about relationships, but even just like figuring yourself out and like your identity, um, I think that's such an important part of that's the first step of getting into a relationship, talking it through with other peers and like really digging and reading the Bible and like why was this a law? Like, why did the God of Israel deem this so important that he would even mention it? And like, what does that mean? Like, just having those conversations with yourself to really figure out what matters so that you can, like, figure out what life you want to live on. I don't think it's ever too early to start thinking about that, or ever too late to change it. So.
Absolutely. I think it's so important to go back and do a Bible study or meditation or some sort of learning session with yourself or with others, like we're doing now, on the customs, traditions, and culture that we had with our ancestors, because that is our one true kind of first perspective on what that foundation of our culture is today. And I think it's important to think about those in terms of today, because a lot of things are different, but also a lot of things are the same. I think the way that women and men interact with each other and what we are supposed to be to each other never changes. And I think that that is there for a reason. I mean, the God of Israel created us for a reason with certain attributes, certain roles, certain um, details about us that won't ever change. And so I think it's so important to just continue to go back and talk about it as young people, getting into this world, getting into relationships, and wanting to be vital instruments and vital parts of the Israelite nation.
All right, any other comments?
I think that it's really important that we keep in mind that in having this conversation, it's as important for men as it is for women and vice versa. I think sometimes it's easy to get lost in, oh, this is a conversation for women, like how to be a wife or how to be a nurturer, things like that. Or, oh, this is just a conversation for men, how to protect the household, how to be that provider. So, but I feel like both of those things go hand in hand. Like you can't really have one without the other. They need to work together to create a healthy environment. So I think that this conversation and this discussion is really important because it shows both men and women that, hey, like we need to talk to each other about this. Like it's one thing talking to just women, one thing men talking to just men, but we need to come together and figure out how our ideals either work or don't work. And if they don't work, how can we make it work? And if they do work, how can we make this more generalizable for everyone so that we can all try to form positive relationships with each other and have positive home environments so that we can pass that down to the next generation, and so that they're already equipped with the knowledge of how to talk to each other about these things and how to go about being in healthy relationships and how to go about not compromising their value, whether they're a girl or a guy in a relationship, and how to go about just being an Israelite in a relationship and including the God of Israel in your relationship, and how that could bring it to the next level and not just have, the surface level. Okay, I like this in a guy. Okay, I like this in a girl. But okay, we like each other. Great. How can we bring the God of Israel into this? How can we bring our spirituality into this and make our foundation even stronger because it's rooted in this Israelite nation's culture and love for the God of Israel?
I so agree with that. I know I already said a point, but I so agree with that. I think, like, I don't think people realize that we're in a vital situation. Divorce rates are high. Women do not know how to be in a relationship. Men don't know how to be in a relationship. No one's happy. Like, no one's enjoying it, not in the long run, anyways. So, like, how do we start getting back to where we have, we could be a partner. We could actually be a helpmate to each other and like have sustainable families that stay together. It's emergency at this point.
Yeah, I think part of that is truly understanding the prophecy and truly understanding that it's happening with our own eyes and with our own experiences, and even the trauma that comes with that, even the trauma that comes with just having to live within it. As you said, there's going to be so many voices to lead you in the wrong direction that it's going to spin you around 10 times before you know which way to go. So I think that is the importance of even discussions like this, but even further than that, as stated, is being rooted in this Israelite culture and in the God of Israel as that forefront, because without that, you're bound to find and slip off the track in some way. And as you said, Sarah, slipping off the track comes with a lot of pain and a lot of trauma. And we don't want that, especially for our youth, because the people who've already had to experience that, they know. And that's why we're here as youth. And that's why we were offered up as youth. And that's why they did this process to help us, So I think it would be a shame for us to drop the ball. So I think that that's important, that we take that responsibility on ourselves so that we do stay on this path, and that if we keep Israel as our forefront, that we have to truly trust that this culture got us. Because as things are tumbling and as things are getting crazier and crazier, to understand that Israel truly is the safe haven and the answer.
Thank you so much for those good points. I want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments. All right, let's keep moving. Keep it moving. With the slide. Thank you. So I have another question for you guys. What values do you prioritize in your life as man and woman at this stage in life? And what is your current role right now?
That's a good question. I think the values that I personally prioritize in my life as a woman is knowing what. I'm sorry, someone else answer. I gotta.
Yeah, I think it's that's great. Okay, so the values I'm prioritizing as a woman at this stage of my life, I think it goes along with the stage of like just making sure you are firmly rooted. I know, like rooted in like who you want to be. I think to introduce someone into your life to prep for a relationship, you need to be able to figure out your likes and dislikes. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to experiment. Do I like this? Should I try this? Yada, yada, yada. And so I think my stage in my life that I am, or I just left, I think was that when I turned 25 this year, I feel like I know myself enough to like when I'm now finding a partner, I have these like standards, and standards are so important. And you don't figure that out until you know yourself, because you then won't know what you're looking for. And they say you find love when you're not looking, right? So I think we need to focus on building that in ourselves and building the person you want to be outside of a relationship, so that we're able to come together and be that person for the other person. I think we're still growing every single day, even in a relationship, but I think that there has to be a certain amount of like personal identity there first. And so that's my role. I was really learning, and now I'm hopeful to kind of put it into action. But I think it's just learning about myself and the world I want to be in.
Moderator, could we put the question back up? So, thank you. So I think the values that I'm prioritizing right now at this stage in my life is definitely focusing on my spirituality and my education, and obviously my relationships with the people that I have in my life. I think that coming into this cycle, I really wanted to focus more on my spirituality and the impact that the God of Israel has on my life. And I've seen that so much since I really started focusing on that. And I think that, I don't know, once you make the God of Israel a priority, everything else falls into place. So because I feel like I've made him a priority now, I kind of understand more who I am as a person and what I prioritize for the other people in my life, for other relationships, whether that's my friendships, whether that's my relationships with my parents or my siblings or my significant other. Like, I make sure that I keep my priorities in mind throughout all those relationships. So how is this serving me? How is this serving them? How is this serving the God of Israel? Those are things that I keep in my mind right now at this point in my life to kind of keep myself on track, and keep myself on the course of life that I'm trying to go down. And I see that since I've been doing that, I've been able to really take a step back and look at who I am and like who I'm seeing because of the things that I'm making a priority. It's not so much material things and things I don't really have much control over, but it's things that I put my hands to work at every day. It's things that I know that can make me better, so I put work into that. It's things that I see in the future can be very beneficial to me, so I'm going to start working on that now, like Sarah said earlier. It's not the kind of thing where like I'll get to it eventually, like when that time comes in my life I'll get to it. But no, if I want to get to a certain place, let me start working now, so that I can get there. What was the second part of that question? I'm not sure if I answered it. What is my current role? I think I just kind of summed that up. What my current role is, just trying to be there for myself, be there for the God of Israel, and then by doing those things, I'm able to be there for the other people in my life.
I think for me, I'd say truly understanding the ability to be wise. I think that there's a lot of transitions that happen in your life, and also as a man. And I think there's a shift that happens from understanding like you slipping will hurt you. And that's one thing, right? But then once you start to get into things like a relationship, a significant other, a wife, a family, child, your mindset shifts into like, I slip, she slips, they slip, we all slip. And I think so understanding that responsibility, it makes you gravitate towards wisdom. And so when you pick up the book and you read it, the words poke out so much differently when you have a responsibility to others. And I think that that is a big piece of manhood that I feel like I'm entering.
It's so interesting to hear you guys with these future of what you guys are thinking of right now. Currently in my life, I'm nowhere near that. As of right now, I'm finding out who I am and how can I service the God of Israel. But it's been interesting to hear that you guys are past that, but you guys are still learning, and that is the most important fact, is that you guys are still learning, and that you guys um, are just preparing you guys for the future. And I'm just here trying to figure out the present. And so that is mainly what. And so we can get the next slide going. All right, so we have Psalms 1 here, our role as young adults. And anybody can read this, and we'll just keep going from there.
Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, in his law do we meditate day and night. And he should be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And what do you think?
I think this is what we're talking about. I think even when you look at the imagery of a tree, it is only as strong as its roots. It may look pretty, but if the roots aren't firmly like rooted, it's gonna wither. It's gonna fall just at a simple wind. And so I think when it comes to that, and this scripture is so beautiful because it outlines exactly what we should be rooted in, right? Not anything ungodly. We're not scornful, but it roots in the delight in the law of the Lord, right? And not only do we know the law, can we like memorize it basically, but we also meditate. So it's not only in our head, but it's in our hearts, and that dictates our actions. And so I think whenever we talk about even relationships or ourselves, it has to be rooted in that sort of identity in relation to the God of Israel and what and why he's providing this role for us in order for it to bring forth its fruit. And not just all the time, but like when it's time, I think it's telling, like when you pray for something, you think it will happen at a certain time period, but only the God of Israel knows when you're ready for that, and he will provide that. Just keep doing what you're supposed to do, and he'll provide that for you. So I think it's beautiful to have sort of a instruction of like how to live our life, and you will really start seeing the benefits once you align yourself with that scripture and what that's saying.
Yeah, I think I think that scripture, I was kind of waiting for this scripture as we were going through, because I think it's a testament to, I think, everything that we've been saying so far. And I think there's a reason why that we say that scripture very often. It's because we have to understand that we have a lot of power within us. And so it's a shame if we don't capitalize on our ability to truly be our best selves, in this metaphor, our best tree. And so I think it just makes me think about the last point, as far as really understanding like the wisdom that is this culture, and rooting yourself in that will allow you to blossom, and not just blossom like generally, but to understand that this culture in an Israelite, it's the best, right? So it changes your standards. It's not about like, oh, it's pretty good. It's like, no, it's the best. And it's the best by its fruits, right? This tree's value from its fruit. So I think as we put in our work and we work on the things that we want to accomplish, to understand that if we are rooted in this foundation as an Israelite, that it will blossom, and that it'll blossom, as Sarah said, when it's time and when it's ready, when he says it's ready, and that it will be the best. And I think believing in that is what will allow you to even make that step. I think oftentimes we don't make steps because we're not super confident. We don't know the result, and we're worried about results. The point is not to worry about results. The point is to just be the best tree. And if you're the best tree, the fruit just falls off of you.
I
Absolutely.
love that. Drop some flowers in the chats, man. That was like poetry there.
Right. I absolutely agree. I think when we're talking about our specific age group from 18 to 25-ish, and the idea that I think, Ashley, you're just starting college. A lot of us the rest of us, I think we have graduated college and we're kind of entering either other schooling or careers or however be it. But I think in this pinnacle age, I think we go from being in if I want to use the metaphor, our parents' tree, like our parents' branch, and our parents kind of, they're there. And so, but they are trusting us and allowing us and having us to go off into our own branch or our own tree, however the metaphor works. But you know what I'm saying? It's the idea that we are part of our parents' foundation. And so for our childhood, they created that great foundation for us as Israelite parents. Most of us were offered up and named, but if not, we had our childhood with Israel, with this culture, and we don't know anything different. And so they have raised us and created that foundation, but it's up to us now that we are preparing to grow our own tree in the same roots, that to be able to be in that same foundation, the same, nutrition-rich soil and the same roots that extend, past our forefathers, like that idea that's that foundation that we have to remember to bring with us. But I think we are now in a pinnacle moment in which we have to do that for ourselves. And so this verse, and I love when that metaphor of a tree, because it's so astute, it's so it fits so perfectly, and it's so wise to compare the two, because it is very similar into that way that we have to stay strong in that foundation, and be able to bear fruit that does the same.
I think that such a great point, Naomi and Ezra. That was also, I'm still digesting. But I think that the last thing you said, Naomi, being able to bear fruit that, does the same thing, like, is why what we've been saying throughout this whole thing is why we've been having this conversation in the first place. This shouldn't just end here and go nowhere else and just be like, okay, they just did a Friday night and it was good and whatever. But this is for the benefit of the youth, for the benefit of the nation and future generations. Like we said before, this conversation shouldn't just be a one-time thing, a generalized conversation. Okay, what should we do as the youth? Okay, this is what we're going to do. Okay, let's never talk about it again. This needs to be a constant thing that we're talking about, because the world is changing always. So we should have our strong foundation, yes, but trees have branches that go everywhere based on whatever happens in their environment. And I think that we, again, should model ourselves after those trees and learn to adjust and pivot, but also still be strong in that trunk, in those roots, and be grounded in our foundation so that we still know where to come back to. Even though all those branches exist and the different fruits of different sizes and shapes may exist that come from those branches, all of those fruits still have the same source of life, energy, and all those things. And that wouldn't be possible without those roots and without that foundation. So I think that as the young people, obviously, we're going to go and we're going to experience university like Ashley is now, and like a lot of young people are right now, and experience life after college and what that's like, and finding a career, building a family, finding a home, finding a place to put those roots down. But I think that even throughout all those different experiences that we're all experiencing, we all collectively have the same foundation, and all continuously have this conversation of, okay, guys, what can we do? How can we make sure that generations after generations after generations, even after we're no longer here, can still be rooted in the foundations that we were rooted in. So we know that they'll be okay. And they know that themselves and future generations will be okay, and understand that this is where we should come back to. And this is everything, basically.
Great points, great points. Especially Ezra, you hit that right on the nail. You got me. Ooh. And I want to see all fires in the chat because that was so good. I know there are people in my life right now, my age, and they are needing that spiritual foundation. And I tell them that your life would be so much better if you actually try to incorporate like a spiritual thing in your life, even coming to class or something like that. But it always be like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, and they just doing their own thing. But that I'm actually really glad that my dad brought my family into Israel to have this very great family, and I really do appreciate it. This community, this this people, my brethren, and many more people would benefit from it if they actually listen to the truth and come into this family. But that's just what I was thinking. So let's keep it going. So this is my
Watch the
question.
feelings in the chat.
Yeah, yeah.
In the chat for Ashley. Yeah.
Thank you. So this is my question to you guys as a young person that is not I'm preparing myself for dating, but I don't know what to expect. So I just want to hear you guys' perspective.
I think Sarah had mentioned this before, but kind of knowing yourself. And she had mentioned having standards now. I think that it's really important to understand what those standards are that you set for yourself and how your partner can meet those standards, and to not compromise when it comes to your standards, because like we said, you're a prize. You are valuable as a woman, and as a man there are certain things that you should not just take because you're a man. um, there has to be that line and that separation where you make sure that you're not compromising yourself, your spirituality, or anything for the person you are with. And I think that once you recognize that you're in that space where you've identified your standards and know that you can implement them, and you won't be afraid to talk about them and to actually adhere to them, then that is a great way to prepare yourself to be in a relationship and to um, be something to someone else.
I definitely agree with that. I think um, having those standards and even like testing it out, I think there's something we could perceive in our head, but maybe when we actually are out in the real world, it's not what we thought it was. So like I think getting like real life experience, whether it is an outside job or like different group of friends or something where you could like test out what you like and what you don't like, so that when it comes to finding a partner, that person is gonna um, want to connect with you a certain way. Like, how do you want to let yourself be perceived? How do you think other people observe you? Is it coming off like a miscommunication? Things like that. Like, practice talking and like articulating your thoughts out to people so that when you are in a relationship, you're able to talk about arguments. There's going to be arguments and disagreements. How do you deal with that? So, not even just like, okay, in your room talking about these are my standards, but like going out and testing it. I think that's important as well. Can we show the question again? I want to make sure I'm answering that question. Yeah, okay, preparing ourselves. I think also when it comes to relationships, women especially, in most relationships, we set the pace. It may not feel like it at the beginning, or it may not like they may not think so, but we do, and so just being aware of like what type of person you want to be in a relationship, like having that conscious thought before you're in one, so you're able to um I guess set the pace when it comes to everything. I think that's so important, is that we're able to just communicate our inner wants and our inner thoughts articulately, and that people understand what that is. And we set boundaries. Boundaries are not just there to just have rules, but it keeps you safe, keeps your heart safe. It's healthy to have boundaries, and making sure that we create them. And I said, test them out before you get into a relationship, so that when it is in there, you're able to have a solid foundation, and they'll notice. They'll be like, wow, you actually know yourself. That's crazy. And like, yeah, because I practiced, I think that's so important.
Absolutely. I think that's extremely I think that's important. And I think it's underrated. I don't think enough people go out and do that or think like that. I think another way that I suppose specifically are preparing ourselves is by having these types of conversations. I think it's so important to talk about not only what your personal roles and what your personal values are, but what you are looking for in a partner, or what you should be looking for, what your standards should be. I think it's important to have people in your life to talk to about that. And I can't wait until we dig into a little bit of more of the scripture, because that's also important to think about as well. Is that spiritual foundation to make sure that you are anything that you're bouncing off of is aligning with how it's supposed to be. And so I think that's also very important. But I think having discussions like this, it can prepare you, but also relying on those that are near and dear to you to help prepare you as an Israelite woman and help prepare you as an Israelite man, and making sure that when you are in a relationship and you do have a partner, that you understand what that means. And that you understand a little bit more of who you are that I would say maybe the average person does, just because we have so much inward thinking, meditation, inward like spirituality to us that is there, that we have to kind of, not just on a physical level, not just emotional and mentally, but just a little bit deeper, and think of that spiritual connection and that spiritual level as well.
Even to add to that, I'd say patience. I think that patience is a big one, because I think that especially when you're young, you can't envision being old. Like, you can't see it yet and you can't feel it. And like, even from like 12 to 16, you can't feel it. And then from 16 to 20, you don't really know what 20-year-old you is going to want. So I think if you keep the same morals, morality, if you keep the same perspective as you age, then you're going to fail yourself. I think you need to allow yourself to constantly be able to like gravitate towards wisdom as it comes towards you. When you ignore those things, you don't just, because the world says do what you want, but I think you end up doing a disservice to yourself. So I'd say patience, and not rushing into things that can possibly affect what could be beautiful down the line. So I'd say that is a big factor for both men and women. I think that it's something that we need to talk about. And I also think that it's important because I think lack of communication, and as we said, conversations like this, it can leave young people kind of just in like limbo, and they don't know what right and wrong is, and the consequences of right and wrong, especially when you're younger and you're not developed in understanding or maturity, or if and not only is it a lack of development, but you're also being influenced by 99.99% of the culture that you see around you that is not of Israel and is not of this nation and is of the Gentiles. So because that's the case, it keeps your mind locked into that frequency. And so, especially as a young person, that it's important that we have these conversations with them and don't think that they got it, because they don't. I guarantee they don't. They're not going to naturally get it, at least given the state that we're in. So I think patience and conversation is the best way that we're going to be able to open this nation up so that we can thrive the way we're supposed to thrive off of families.
Thank you so much. Great points. I hope the young people out there are taking notes because I'm taking notes, and those were really good. I'm hoping to at least apply what you guys have said to my life. I know I'm going to be using a lot of them because you guys have lived through these experiences, and you guys know what works. And so it will be very crucial for me to at least implement some things into my life that you guys are telling me. All right, let's keep it rolling. All right, another question for you guys. What type of partner should we look for? And this is just a broad question. Any answer could go.
I think I'm looking, or I personally think that everyone should look for this, but someone that embodies that word partner. I think it's important to feel like not only am I helping that person to achieve their goals, but they're helping me. Not only am I helping that person to deepen their spirituality and connection, but they're helping me. Not only am I excited and ready and and find value in having children or whatever marital goals that you have, but that person is as well. And so I think people should be looking for a partner that is a partner in life. I think that it's such an important word. Like I don't mind the terms girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, but I love that term partner because it is so it symbolizes exactly what that person should be, to be a partner in that relationship, a partner in that household, to make sure that it's being run in the way it should, that everyone has their specific roles, that they're embodying what an Israelite man and women should do together as a unit. And so I think that beyond looks, I think emotional maturity is up there too. But I think that also is that's also with a partner. I think someone that is your equal, but also more and definitely not less. Like someone that is that partner to you that can help, and you can help them as well. I think it's a vague, but I think it applies to a lot. Yeah.
I don't think there's necessarily a way to gauge more or less, especially given the state that we're in, just as people. I think that the biggest understanding is like once you are in a relationship, just know that the roller coaster has started, and whether you want it to or not start, but it's started. And I think a big factor is making sure that both people understand that the relationship itself creates responsibilities and it creates plates to step up to. Like that conversation begins, right? Before that, it's you, and if you hurt yourself, you hurt yourself. But now you're responsible for another human being. So because of that, it's now you have plates to step up to. So different people can be at different levels. It doesn't mean that it's impossible to grow. I think the most important thing is making sure that both parties understand that this requires growth from both of us. I don't care how perfect you think you are, because you're not, most likely. So I think understanding that both parties need to understand that it's time to grow. And this, any age, no matter what situation it is, because the thing about a relationship is that it serves as a mirror, and you're going to see things about yourself and realize things about yourself that you were probably blind to knowing. And you have to be humble enough in order to make those changes, while also, of course, staying within your role, while also, maintaining confidence and love and all those things. Of course, all the good things that we know that come with a relationship. But I think the biggest thing is like, can we grow together? And I think if you know that, if I move forward, I need someone that can also take that step with me. And the moments in which that isn't possible, you're going to see a lot of tension. So,
Thank you, Ezra. Any other points?
Yeah, I think that I really enjoyed the point Ezra made about being willing to grow with your partner. I think that there's a narrative out there that when you step into a relationship, you need to absolutely know yourself and be so set in everything that you do and everything that you are that if the person that you're with can't really 100% get with that, then they're not the person for you. But I think that something that we need to talk about and recognize is that, like Ezra said, we're not perfect, first of all. And if you're not growing in a relationship, then you have to look at the relationship and see what's hindering the growth, because you want to grow. You want to see your partner doing great things, and you want to do great things yourself and then bring that back to the relationship and then ultimately grow together. Like that stagnation, you don't want that to exist in your relationship, because then that could have, a negative impact on the way that you feel about each other. Like, oh, you're holding me back, that kind of mentality. But I think that, like Ezra said, if you keep the communication going and both parties understand where we're at, and we're not just, I'm growing without you, or I'm doing things without you, I'm not telling you, and then things happen and you're like, wait, where am I fitting in all of this? Like, I think that growth means communication, and you need to have that constant avenue of communication with each other, in order to see that relationship flourish. Another thing I would say to look for in a partner is someone that you can explore your spirituality with as well. You never want to be with someone who holds you back in that way, whether they're Israel or not Israel. You never want to be in a relationship with someone that could negatively impact your relationship with the God of Israel and your spirituality. Because as we said, that's a root, that's a foundation. And if that foundation shakes, then what's to say about the rest of your foundation and the rest of your roots if that thing can be swayed? So I think that someone that you can be comfortable in your spirituality with, and someone that you can talk to the God of Israel about, and someone you can be in that spiritual headspace with, will be really beneficial for for the progression of the relationship.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I want to see so many sevens, fires in the chat, because you guys keep hitting it on the nail. It's so interesting to hear you guys' different perspectives. Like, I know I said a broad question, but I still got value from you guys' answers, because these are lived experiences and I can use them. And not to sound like that, but like you can use them in the future, and also for people like me, just to know what to expect. So let's keep it rolling. Let's see what the scriptures say. So this is Proverbs 31, a virtuous woman, and anybody can read it.
Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall not have need for spoil. She will do him good, not evil, all the days of her life. She stretched her hands out to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come.
Thank you, Naomi, for reading. And what did you think of this scripture?
I think it's a well-known verse, for her price is far above rubies, but I think it's more than talking about price. It's not, she's expensive, but not in a monetarily way. Like she's valued, but not in a way that you would put towards rubies or gems or diamonds or anything like that. Like it's something about women, and in this verse describing women, like this specific, like virtuous woman, that has a value and a something in her that is just more, that a man would want to be a husband to, that other women can learn from. That it's explaining how this person, how this woman helps her husband, how she helps her community, how she helps her family, and how, in all of that, she still has that strength with her, and that she's just this person that I think, I mean, this is a well-known verse for a reason. I think as a woman, I definitely want to attain that virtuosity that this is describing.
I think also as a man, right? I think that just when I read this, I think it's understanding that there are things that a woman can do that a man cannot do. And a good man is great. A good woman is great. And bringing that greatness together makes something undeniably amazing. And I think that is a big piece of what I see when I read it, because when you see a woman whose heart is just right, the things that she is able to do, it'll naturally attract the right man, because it's like a flower, you know. And because men, we are very protective creatures, we will want to like find this flower amongst the dust and hold on to it, preserve it, water it, keep it. And so when I think about that, I think about there's just things that a woman is able to do, the way that she could flow through a room or just move, and if her heart is in the right places, the things that she's able to accomplish, which when I see the reaching her hand out to the needy and to the poor, it's not just like so simple as just like donation. It's like it's more so the way that she is, the way that she thinks. And it's so, I think it's very beautiful as a man to witness it. And I think when you witness it, then you want to hold on to it.
Thank you, Ezra. Any other points before we move on? All right. And I just wanted to say I loved hearing your perspective, because we often talk about, oh, this is expected of a woman, but we really don't talk about how, I mean, we obviously talk about how women are the prize in a relationship, but like to reiterate that, because a lot of women do undermine themselves. I know I do it sometimes. This is an honest conversation. I do it sometimes, but to hear that I am prized in a relationship, it is great to hear. So we can keep it moving. This is for the men. Men are providers. So anybody can read this slide.
I can read the slide. And I know we don't have too much time left, but maybe this should be the last. Read 1 Timothy 5, rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father, and the younger men as brethren, the elder women as mothers, the younger as sisters, with all purity. Honor widows that are widows indeed. But if any widow have children or nephews, let them learn first to show piety at home, and to requite their parents, for that is good and acceptable before God. Now she that is a widow indeed and desolate trusteth in God, and continueth in supplications and prayers night and day. But she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth, and these things give in charge, that they may be blameless. But if any provide not their own, and especially those of his own, he hath denied the faith, and is worse the infidel.
Thank you, Ezra, for reading. And did any women want to express their thoughts about this slide?
I think it's just wonderful. We always say how the God of Israel just outlines his expectations of us so beautifully, and not only expectations, but it's like the equation to what makes a happy and fulfilling society. So this specifically, just talking about the responsibilities of a man in a society, or even when it talks about like the different types of women they are, how should that person, I mean, even live live in the society. I love the 8th verse when it talks about like if men don't provide for their own, that is their job, essentially. Um, that he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. I think the structure and the role of which a man exists is to be able to provide for his family. And it's just great that it's so beautifully outlined here.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Any other points?
I think a way I look at this too is reading verse 8, but if any provide not their own, I think this is also in the way of not only being a provider for your family, but showing the faith and providing that to your family and showing your family what that means. Whether that's a mother teaching their children about the God of Israel, or a father even teaching his children about what it means to be an Israelite. I think that providing in a way of spirituality and not just physical ways is also very important in the role of a man and a woman, especially an Israelite man and Israelite woman. Um, a role as mothers and fathers, and how they should rule their family, and how they should, give back to the God of Israel by teaching their children about the God of Israel and having them teach generation after generation. So that's just something that I wanted to point out.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I want to see fires in the chat, sevens, because that was really, really good to listen to. So we can keep it moving for the next slide. It is going to be Ephesians 5. Now, if you're following along with us with reading, you guys can read this in the Bible. It's just to expand upon men and their role in as an Israelite man is in this culture. So we can continue on with the next slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is just expanding upon it. It's just the rest of Ephesians 5. I do really want to get into this question. I think it's a really good question to ask before we log off because of the thank you. So I really want to ask, do the roles and expectations in the Bible still apply to today? Anybody can answer.
Absolutely. I think we've been kind of answering that along the way. And like, I think everyone could sense our passion for this subject because I think we're realizing how much it actually do apply to today. I think when people say it doesn't apply, they're interpreting wrong. They're reading passages that are purposely outlined to highlight certain things, maybe that women are inferior or like men play this role, and it's just not a true partnership that we have described today. And so I think if someone actually took the time to read and apply the values that the God of Israel has set for us in the Bible, that they find that it actually creates the perfect partnership. I mean, it comes to the fact that God of Israel created the first couple, the first partnership. He would know the things of which we should focus on when engaging in that sort of relationship. So why not go to that source? So yeah, I definitely think it applies today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Anybody else?
I think it absolutely applies today. I think certain things need to be contextualized. I think it was a different culture and society back then. I think the foundations are similar, but as far as it being patriarchal society, as well as women back then didn't own land or work, and so there's different roles in that way, in the way that it is in the 21st century and in 2024. But I think the basis and foundation of it, the meaning, like Sarah said, of going all the way back to how the God of Israel created Adam and Eve, and he would know that is the like what the strengths and the weaknesses and how the way men and women fit together that we should continue going back to. But it's definitely applies to today. And then there are different ways to contextualize and different ways to add that into today, for sure.
Thank you so much, Naomi. You hit that on the nail. Like this conversation has been really, really great. I enjoyed listening to you guys' perspective, especially as a younger person. Just figuring out herself and understanding her role as an Israelite woman, Israelite maiden, in this culture. And I just wanted to thank you guys so much for having this conversation with me. So can we get the next slide, please? All right. This is another question. Is there a head of household between a man and a woman in the marriage? Anybody can answer.
I'm going to answer really quickly because I know we're almost done. I think that there is definitely a partnership, and I think that women and men have different roles within the household, and so I think in a lot of ways the men are the head of household, but I think in other ways that the woman does lead her family and the way that they kind of work together.
Thank you so much. I know we're out of time and it's been a really great conversation, but I just wanted to get you guys' last and final thoughts before we log off.
Yep, I think it's important to note that our goal here, not only as Rise, but also in this nation, is so that we grow and we have families. That's always been the God of Israel's instruction to his favorite people, was to please have family. So, and please have children and all sorts, and to be fruitful and multiply. So I think that that's important to remember, and that we are constantly remembering that building this nation is building our families.
Absolutely. I think we are supposed to be forward thinking in this phase of life and be able to know how we want to grow our families. And so conversations like these are so vital. And I'm so glad that we brought Ezra in to kind of bring his perspective and to be able to talk about this even for a third time.
I think this was such a great discussion, and we hit so many vital points throughout all of it. And I really hope that the audience enjoyed and really got something from it, no matter your age or where you are in life. I hope that you learned something that you can apply to your future interactions and endeavors. And I'm just very, very happy that we were able to have this discussion.
Me too. I think we continually say how important it is to talk about this thing. And I think that's because like talking about it leads to action. And so I don't want this conversation to leave here. I think we've said before, I mean to stop here, but I want it to leave here. So we're able to create a society of women and men that are instilled in the laws of the God of Israel, but also make great partners for each other. I think that this was just awesome and great. And I hope to continue with more parts and more people and like just getting all the young people kind of conversating about this. So we're able to kind of teach the people behind us, but even, let people in front of us know our thoughts on these things. So
Thank you so much, everyone. And those that are watching, please send this video to those that are younger than you, those that are older than you that may want to listen. And I just wanted to end it off with peace.
Peace.
Peace.